Hey, Goat Knucklers, welcome back to episode 80 on Goat Knuckle Talk with Flo. I am Flo. Guys, again, you're going to love this episode. So if you want to see more episodes like tonight, please subscribe to the channel on YouTube and like and make a comment or leave a comment. And then, Lisa, hey, it seems like it's
Hi.
been a while since I've seen you.
I know. I'm sorry that I missed last week. Thanks for
Yeah, oh,
covering
that's
me.
right. You did miss. That's why.
Yeah,
Duh.
it's been a couple of weeks.
Well, again, this is episode 80. We're creeping to 100. Can you
I
believe that?
know. I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
So who
Tonight's
is
a
this
special
fine?
night. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
who's this fine,
We've
handsome
just
young
been
gentleman?
we are so honored to have none other than Mr. Larry McBee join us tonight. Welcome, Mr. McBee. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank y'all for inviting me.
Well, tell us first, where are you currently living and how long have you lived there?
We live in Alto, New Mexico, which joins Ruidoso on the north. It's in the mountains. I'm 7,300 foot elevation, and we moved here in 2018, so we've been here nearly 8 years.
Wow, I bet it's just gorgeous there. That's one of my favorite places in New Mexico.
It's a dream home and life for us.
I bet. I bet. So is that a place that y'all would visit frequently and then decided to make it a permanent home?
In 2004, my son-in-law and daughter bought this place, and he talked me into going in with him. Although I couldn't afford it at the time, I got enough together to buy into it. And then eventually, 2017, he said he lives in New York now, and he had to get, he didn't need this. So I bought him out, and so it's our house now.
Well, good. Hope he sold it at a discount. Family discount, you know?
I got a good deal.
Good. Well, Mr. McBee, you said you want to say something real quick before we start the interview?
Well, I imagine most of your audience out there are ex-Bulldogs and Angry Red folks, and didn't think you'd ever see this mug again, you know. But they're probably out there saying, "Look at that white-headed old wrinkled-up man there. We can't believe that's Mr. McBee." But you know, Father Time has a way of working on you, and I'm sure some of you guys have a few little scars yourselves, but I've been most fortunate. My health has been almost perfect. I've never spent the night in the hospital, never had an operation. All of my joints are good as they ever were. So if you got any ideas about getting cocky with me, I can still take care of you probably.
Well, you're about a mile and a half up in that elevation. That probably does real good to that skin.
We can see the ski mountain is just not too far from my house.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, Lisa.
Well, that's wonderful.
Well, you begin.
Yeah, so let's start back at the beginning. Like, can you tell us where you were born and raised?
Okay, this will probably take a minute because I grew up in a little different environment. I was born in Brady, Texas, Central Texas, right in the heart of Texas. In fact, probably less than 10 miles from where we lived, there's a marker designating it as a geographical center of Texas. So I grew up, we lived on small farms. My dad was a farmer, a butcher, a heavy equipment operator, anything to make a buck. And most of the places we lived were had outdoor plumbing, that type of thing. You know, don't get me wrong, I never thought of us being poor. We had all kinds of animals, and I learned to milk cows and chop cotton, pull cotton, and slop hogs, clean chicken coops, and all of that before I was the age of 10 years old. So I grew up working hard, and I've always been proud of that, and I think it had a lasting effect on me.
Wow.
But then by the time I started first grade, we'd lived at least 6 different places. And then before it was all said and done, I think I went to 8 different schools by the time I entered Plainview. So,
And what year was that, and what grade?
in the 8th grade, I went 2 weeks at Shallowater, then finished out the semester at Crest, then moved to Muleshoe for a year. And then in January of 58, middle of my freshman year, we moved to Hale County, out at Halfway, actually.
Okay.
And so, so then that you enrolled in Plainview schools at that time?
I enrolled. I was kind of in shell shock after I was a little bitty guy, as you might well imagine. I probably was 5 foot, weighed less than 100 pounds. And so I was kind of in shell shock seeing that many kids and all those big kids. And I'd always gone to small schools and been able to participate fully in, football, basketball. I was a little quick guy. I love sports. But when I moved to Plainview, it was it took me a while to kind of adjust.
Okay. I can imagine. So were all those moves because of your dad taking on a different job?
Yes. When he was trying to farm, it was during the terrible drought of the 50s. Mm-hmm. And so that just set him back. And so when we moved into Halfway in Hale County, he got on with the county as a heavy equipment operator. And so he stayed there till he retired. And so we were able to live there and in Halfway. And that pretty much, he was able to settle down then and, work several years in that career.
Okay, you mentioned sports. People always say that you play tennis. Did you play tennis in high school?
Oh, that's what I played. Okay. I probably preferred to play football or basketball, but I realized that really wasn't going to happen for me. But I was a good tennis player. We had lived in Brownwood one year and lived close to a park, and so we were able to. My older brother and I played tennis nearly every day. So when I moved in Plainview, I was a little guy, but I could play tennis, and so that's what I played throughout high school.
And you were a lefty, correct? If I recall.
Do what?
You were a left-hander? You're a lefty?
All the way.
Me too.
I got to say, remember Steve Garvey from the Dodgers?
Sure.
He was a baseball player. You remind me a lot of him because he had huge forearms.
Yeah, I was called Popeye at different times in my career, but I appreciate that because Steve Garvey, he's a pretty good specimen.
Oh, he was. He had some power. He
sure did. I have a question about your childhood and all these moves. It can be really challenging for a kid to change schools so frequently. You have to make a new set of friends and find your way, find your group of friends. Did you have a strategy for adapting, quickly to a new environment each time that you moved?
Well, the good thing was that I was always good in academics. I was good at math. I was good at spelling. I was good at science. None of it gave me any problems. So when I moved from one school to another, I might be behind a little bit, but I'd catch up quickly. And I generally made A's at that time. But I always got along with everybody. I tried to be friendly with everybody. So at the smaller schools, I seemed like I always got acquainted rather quickly and fit in. At Muleshoe, I was there only a short time, and I was elected as a class officer, and just really loved that little school. And so making that change to Plainview just almost flabbergasted me. But anyway, I adapted and made some really good friends there, and it was a good experience for me. Although I wasn't what you'd call the most popular guy in school. We had our group of friends, and Tom Brown, if you remember, y'all did Dale Brown's program on him. Mm-hmm. Tom was his younger brother, and he's the same age as me. And Tom and I actually followed similar careers, and he still lives in Lubbock and retired from being a principal and all of that.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow. Yeah. That's pretty cool. I was going to ask you about Mr. Brown because he had almost the same upbringing like you. He worked on the farm at a young age. Now, I do need to ask you, though, in high school, he used to hitchhike a lot. How did you get around in high school? Did you have your vehicle or bicycle?
Tom had a good car. He had a 55 Chevy. So if I'd occasionally buy him a little gas, he'd tote me around. We'd go back. He would go back to school together. A lot of time I'd ride the bus, depending on the situation. But I didn't get my first car till just before my senior year, and I had worked that summer in road construction, and I made enough to buy an old clunker.
What was that clunker?
It was a 50-model Chevrolet sedan. It was the ugliest car in town.
And you were so proud of it, I'm sure.
Well, if I was lucky enough to get a date, I'd always ask my dad to use his car.
And what car was that?
He had a Studebaker
Oh,
Lark.
nice.
Oh, wow.
And I have a Studebaker parked in my garage right now, 62 Studebaker Hawk, red with red interior, and it's pretty neat old car.
Does
Well,
it run?
cool.
Is it in running condition?
Oh yeah, I've had motor redone, and I worked as a automotive machinist for years before I actually got my degree to teach, and so I knew how to. I ground crankshafts, board blocks, did all valve work, all that stuff. So I actually helped overhaul this engine myself.
All right. So what was there to do back in the 50s in Plainview?
We had several drive-ins. Eddie's was there. The Trio Rebel was the big one. And so on the weekends, everybody would get in their cars and they'd drag around one of the drive-ins, then they'd go down and drag around another one. Then they'd go down Fifth Street to Broadway and drag Broadway. They'd go up to the old depot and turn around and go back. Everybody was usually driving pretty slow and honking each other. And, usual thing, looking out, see if you might actually be able to meet some new girls or something like that. But
Was he hair greased back and wearing a white T-shirt?
no, I didn't have that. A lot of the kids in school did. I actually had a flat top.
Oh,
And I wore that flat top all the way through high school.
Was it by choice or is it your dad said?
Oh,
this is
yeah. I didn't know. My dad never did worry too much about how I did my hair. So I remember when I got it cut, we lived in Broward, and I talked to my mother and let me have a flat top. So I had that until after I started to college, I guess.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, you said you were a good student when you were young. Did that continue when you were in high school?
Yes, for the most part. I loved math, and I'll kind of brag here, one of the highlights of my high school career, we had a very demanding Algebra 2 teacher, and on her final exam, I made 100, and she said that was the first one she'd ever had. I've still got the report card to prove it. But
wow.
Anyway, I got an award for Spanish too, but I wasn't real studious. I didn't study late at night. I went to class, listened to class, didn't give the teachers any problem. And then my senior year, we got to kind of goofing off a little bit, playing a little hooky here and there and that type of thing. My grades went down a little, but I still graduated with overall a little over a 90 average.
Did I hear correctly? You skipped class, Mr. McBee?
I hate to say it, it was Tom Brown's fault. We would start to school in his Chevy. We'd get out of ways from halfway, and he'd say, "Let's go to Lubbock today. Let's go to Amarillo today." Of course, I was a bound prisoner.
Oh, yeah, your hands were tied. What could you do?
What could I do?
You couldn't jump out of a moving vehicle.
Oh, wow.
But
I'm glad to know you were a normal teenager.
That really was a poor time for me because I developed some poor habits. And then when I got into college, I went to Wayland, because I couldn't afford room and board going out of town. But some of those habits kind of stayed with me until I got married and went back to college, decided to buckle down and get after it again.
Whenever you're at Wayland, I assume you stayed at the dorm. Like, did you have to stay your freshman year at a dorm?
Oh, no.
No?
I lived at halfway live with my mother and dad. That's the reason I went there in the first place, because I couldn't afford room and board. But tuition, get this, was only $12 a semester hour.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I remember ours was pretty cheap back in the 80s, at like 20, 24 maybe.
Yeah, it was affordable. I mean, it wasn't for me. I still had to apply for a Pell Grant, but I went.
Were you there when Jimmy Dean was going to school there?
No, Jimmy had left, but my wife had 3 older brothers, and they were raised with Jimmy, close to his age. In fact, her oldest brother was probably Jimmy Dean's best friend in life.
Oh,
and
nice.
when he would fly back to Plainview for something, her brother would pick him up at the airport in Lubbock or Amarillo and bring him into Plainview. But so I've met him. We've been at eating meals together and things like that through my wife's family.
Okay, cool. Going back to college, you said you stopped going to Wayland, and then you ended up going back to college. What did you go back to Wayland, or did you go to another university?
Well, I was working at the machine shop all the time I was going to school, and working probably 30 to 35 hours a week. And I'd go a semester, then I'd kind of drop out a semester. I wasn't going anywhere. And so I met my current wife at one of the drive-ins in Plainview, and we went together about a year and a half, got married, and I had dropped completely out of school, and I worked as a full-time machinist there in Plainview doing automotive machine work. And I enjoyed it. It was challenging work. It was hard work, but I liked it. And one day it just kind of dawned on me that I had something out there undone. And it got to gnawing at me that I wanted to go back to school and finish my education. When I first started, I probably was majoring in I didn't have a major. I was doing kind of pre-pharmacy classes, things like that would go into some different areas. So I told my boss one day there, Mr. Mangum, I said, I'm thinking about going back to school, but I'll still need to work. He said, you don't worry about it. We'll work around your schedule. When you come in here, we'll have stuff ready for you to start to work on. So that was the first thing. And then I had to decide what I was going to major in. Well, I looked at my background. I had never wanted to be a teacher up to that time.
Well, there goes my next question, but go ahead.
But I decided to major in math and education. And so I enrolled back at Wayland and went to school, and it took me another 3 years. But I finally got back in the groove and graduated. And when I graduated as a senior, I was voted the outstanding math student. And so I felt like I had kind of completed one of my goals. And at that time, I had done my student teaching at Plainview High School. Mr. Lamont Beach was the principal, and he had been my assistant principal in high school, actually. So he knew me well. I knew him well. And so I was a student teaching under Mr. Watson. And before the end of the semester, Mr. Beach came in one day and said, would you like to teach at Plainview High School? I said, well, I just bought a house across the street from it. That'd be real handy. So he hired me, and that was the start of it.
And did you start teaching math immediately? Did they hire you as a math teacher?
Yes, I was teaching. We taught 5 classes a day. It was a 6-period day. We've taught 5 classes, and I averaged that first year 30 per class for 150 kids every day, different kids that you was in contact with. But I also immediately enrolled in a program that they had at WT, majoring in mathematics education. And so my first year, I was also taking differential equations at West Texas University.
Okay. So did you complete your master's? Did you
I
get?
did.
Okay.
I think it was 1974. I was going in the summers and at nights, trying to finish it as quickly as I could. At the same time, I got a second job because 6,600 was what I made my first year teaching, and opening came at the Hale County Teacher Federal Credit Union, which is still in existence. And so for 9 years, I was the manager of the credit union. So every day when I got away from the schools, I'd go down there and then work there on Saturdays. And then I'd work there in the summers in between going to classes at WT.
Wow. Okay.
You are a hustler, Mr. McBee.
I know, right?
Well-
A lot of mileage on that clunker. I hope you had a new vehicle by then.
Oh, I had some nice vehicles.
Well, hey, I want to go back to high school. And I have to ask. I have to, and I'm not sure if Nazareth was still, the place to go back in the 50s and 60s. Did you venture that way?
It was the holy city. It was the holy city. I hate to say it, but again, it was my friend's fault. We ventured that way a time or two.
I bet if we ask, hey, Lisa, I bet if we ask him, he'll probably say, "Oh no, Larry drove. He drove."
Oh, you would get a different answer from Tom Brown for sure.
I bet so. The challenge is on. Oh my goodness.
So,
in fact, when Dale passed away, his brother, I was a pallbearer there in Plainview. That hasn't been that long ago, as you're aware. Right. And Tom, when he introduced me to his kids and grandkids, he said, "This is Larry McBee." Said he used to get me in trouble all the time. I tried to do the right thing, but he was always getting in my way.
Yeah, I'll make this short and quick. But Mr. Brown, I love that story when he had the sniffing dogs. The dogs came to sniff drugs at Ash, and they sniffed in one locker, and then it was a dozen donuts. So then they were Mr. Brown and the teacher were sweating because, oh my God, it's probably sniffing some marijuana or something. But no, it was donuts.
Yeah, we brought the drug dogs in Plainview before he had them over there, and I remember the same thing almost exactly. I said, I think it was a hot dog or something in there, and that guy said, "Oh, he didn't sniff on that dog." On that, I said, "He's a dog. He knew what was in there."
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's funny.
Oh my goodness. So how long did you teach before you decided to go into a bigger leadership role? Were you tapped for that? Were you asked to go into an administrative role, or is it something that you had an ambition for?
I didn't really ask. I had started working on my master's. I taught 5 years full time. And I was very fortunate in that I was able to teach the elementary analysis, trigonometry, all the upper levels classes. And I had some of the smartest kids you could imagine that went on to be doctors, lawyers, everything else. And many of them came back and told me that their calculus class they took in college was a breeze because they had been well prepared, which of course made me always feel good,
Oh, good. Actually, if I may share, Arlen Thompson, he mentioned that they ran out of math courses in the regular curriculum, and when he was a junior, they gave him a calculus independent study under your guidance, and then that you allowed him to go to your house if he needed any help. So,
Arlen was a great student, good kid, and that's exactly right. Kelly Brown did an independent study in calculus, and of course, he was so to speak, a brainiac. I just gave him the lesson. He just breezed through it, made an A. And Arlen was a really good student too. In fact, the last time I saw Arlen was in Plainview at Chili's. He lives in Denver now, and he'd come down to visit his mom, and he told me that he used the math that we had, nearly every day in his business that he had there in Denver.
Yeah, he was an engineer, and one of your daughters said that you love teachers so much that you would tutor, and then
Oh yeah,
Melissa class.
I started tutoring in college, and then of course you couldn't tutor your own students in school, but I always had was there one of the first ones every morning, and so I'd tell the kids, if you need any help, get here before the hall people go on duty and just come on up. And so nearly every day I'd have 3 or 4 kids up there helping them and visiting, and just, they kind of enjoyed coming up and doing that.
I wish you had been my math teacher. It's the one subject that I struggled with the most. I mean, I made good grades, but it did not come easy to me, and I never felt like I had a teacher that really made it come to life for me in a way that I could understand it. And so it was always a struggle.
Well, math is kind of funny. How people say, well, I had a blank in math. Some of them did. You could tell immediately. I taught college algebra for probably 15 years after I retired. And, you can tell immediately for those that it comes easy. Some of them had to struggle. I had students that just worked as hard as they could, did the best they could, and I would pass them, and because they would usually be borderline. But if it was close, well, I would go ahead and pass them. But it wasn't because of effort. It was just that wasn't their thing. It'd kind of be like me trying to sing in the choir or play in the band or draw a piece of artwork. It just wouldn't happen.
Right. Yeah, I think people have a natural affinity to certain subjects, and math is one of those.
That's right.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Well,
But
go ahead, Lisa.
no, I was just going to say, I may not be good at math now, but I appreciate it as a science because I think that numbers are magical and numbers don't lie, and it's a very precise science, and I'm fascinated by it as an adult now. I like learning. I love learning. So,
Well, I didn't really like going to school, but I was a good student, fortunately. So I was, I did okay, but I certainly wasn't your kind that was you'd call a studious type.
And I guess when you went to school, the high school was there, right? Correct. I don't know when it was built.
Yeah. It was there. It was 2-story. It's been added on to a lot since then.
Right. I wonder what year it was built. So if anyone knows, will you please leave us a comment and Google it for us? Or Lisa, you can Google it.
I can Google it right
Yeah.
here in front of me. What? How many were you?
Memories. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I was
gonna
just
say-
going to say, if you remembered how many people were in your graduating class.
I think there was 220.
Wow. Okay. Well, that was really large compared to all your other schools.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
There was probably at least 300 when I started there. And the funny thing, the first class I went into was English class, and when I went in the room, everybody kind of snickered a little bit. Probably at my size, which didn't bother me. I was used to that. But a teacher set me behind the biggest kid in my class. He was a freshman and weighed over 250 pounds. I could barely see the board.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness.
Just tell people you're the Tom Cruise of education. So, because Tom Cruise, he's not a tall guy.
No, I was, I was 5 feet as a freshman, and then in about a year and a half, I grew to my 5'6" stature, which maybe I am now.
Tennis. Did you play any in college?
I didn't play in college. Well,
Competitive, but did you maybe play?
I played in a tennis PE class because we all had to have PE, and it just so happened that the 2 tennis players, doubles tennis players for Wayland, were in that same class, and so we had it was a badminton / tennis class, and so happened that we had a tournament and I beat both of those guys that were on the tennis team.
Oh
Oh
wow.
my goodness.
Wow. So
Okay.
what was your move? I mean, did you like to play the net, rush in, play the net,
No,
or backhand?
I wish I could have played the net more, but I'd play against these big, tall guys that would come to the net, and then I'd have to lob it over. But I like to play mainly baseline, and I had a pretty good overhand, pretty good backhand, and I could hit the ball fairly hard. My serve was pretty good.
Who do you compare your game to? Like a 70s or 80s tennis player? Bjorn Borg, Jimmy Connors, McEnroe.
I wasn't in their league. But I would say I was more like, I was fiery. I was more like Agassi, probably.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, here's your trivia answer. So Plainview High School was originally built in 1916.
Oh, dang.
Yes, and then a new building was created. It was a 124 by 136 foot Gothic style building that was completed next to it in 1924. And then the new building, what is now the shell of the high school, was constructed in 1967.
Oh, wow. Thank you for the history.
Yeah.
Thank you. Memories. So let's jump to the Angry Red. So you mentioned to us before we started about, you had a story to share about Mr. Sherwood and Mr. George.
Okay, this revolved around, this was, y'all might even remember this. I remember it's the exact time, but some people out there will probably identify with this, but of course, I'm not going to call any names. I'm not trying to embarrass anybody, but it was an actual event where two athletes that got into a fight. And it was kind of after school at practice. And it was a big deal. Everybody knew about it. Mr. George and Coach Sherwood were on different sides. They didn't agree on who was at fault exactly. Of course, I got into it initially because I was assistant principal. And so I don't remember exactly how it transpired, but I remember I had talked to each parent separately. And these were strong parents, strong-willed, strong parents, good parents, both of them. But it was different races. And that, that meant a difference to these people involved. And so I knew it wasn't going to be, it was almost like this is not going to be a solvable situation that everybody's going to agree with. Well, after I'd had those meetings with the parents, I get a call from Mr. Veach. Y'all remember Mr. Veach, the superintendent?
He was our superintendent when we were there.
Lamont. Well, Lamont was a very powerful, strong-willed person. And he never called me Larry. He never called me Mr. McBee. It was always McBee. He called me on the phone. He said, McBee, you don't get yourself into this situation. I want you to get your hands off of it, stay out of it. And I want Mr. George and Mr. Sherwood to work this out amongst themselves. Do you hear me? I said, I got you. Of course, I felt kind of bad because I felt like it was my responsibility, but I wasn't going to buck him. So I didn't say I didn't do anything from then on. But then Mr. George came to me and he said, Mr. McBee, Coach Sherwood and I want to meet in your office and talk this thing over, and we want you to be there and kind of be the mediator. So I said, okay. So here I am in my office. I got the big coach over here. I got Mr. George, two powerful persons, two really good men. I never heard either one of them use a foul language ever. And they didn't then, but they weren't in agreement, and they kind of hooked it up. And I sat there as stoic as I could, one of them would say something, kind of look at me, and I'd just sit there. And so I don't know if I really said anything or not, except listen to them. Well, eventually, probably took about an hour. They hadn't come to an agreement, but it was just time come to a standstill, and it stopped. And so they left. And I'll be honest to you, this day, I think the police had already been involved in it. I don't know the final outcome of what had happened to those involved. But it, like all problems, it went away. It was solved somehow or other, and life went on.
Wow.
But
Okay.
I mean, these guys, you know, they were good guys, but and honestly, I could always sense that there was not animosity, but between the two, there was maybe a little friction.
Okay.
Are you referring to Mr. George and Mr. Sherwood, you mean?
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And of course, I got along great. They were both my friends. I went to both of their funerals. I was a pallbearer at Mr. George's. You know, just I never worked for any guys that I liked any better than them and they were both very supportive of me throughout my career. In fact, when I got the principal's job at high school principal a few years later in '89, they were both gave me great recommendations, and I was able to get that job.
What school? Which school?
Abernathy. I was high school principal there 6 years.
Wow. Okay. Well, excuse me. Any good stories? Let me back it up. When Sherwood came the first year, 78, 79, I believe, I think, and he turned the football program around. Of course, he got the city involved in that first year. What did you think?
Mr. Henry was the principal at the time that he was hired, and he told me one day, said they had hired Coach Sherwood to come in, and that he was a big guy and a great guy, and he really thought the world of it. Of course, Mr. Henry was principal probably 2 or 3 years, and then when he left, Mr. George came in. But no, I thought the Angry Red was great. Angry Red, enough said. I've still got a coffee cup in here that Ms. Lance gave me with a red dot on it, you know.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And student morale picked up, and that first year especially, we had a great team, you know. But another little story you may want to involve Coach Sherwood and a student to tell you how he kind of supported me. So this gets into a discipline problem in which, you know, if we ever had any problems with athletes, he wanted to know about it. And of course, you would always get some help from him. But this particular athlete had kind of taken a little money that wasn't his, but he got seen. And a couple of kids came in to him and said, we saw so-and-so take this amount of money from another student, and he didn't know it. So I called the student in that had been taken from him. And he said, yeah, I figured out I'd lost that money. So I called the perpetrator in. He was a pretty good kid, but he had opportunity. This money got in front of him, and he couldn't resist, I guess. So I told him he'd have to give the money back. He said, well, I've already spent it. I said, well, you're going to have to come up with it. He said, I don't have any money. I said, you better get some. And so I said, besides that, you took something that wasn't yours. You know, you're going to have to take paddling or detention hall. By that time, we were probably given options, you know, to a kid, although you didn't have to. It just kind of made it a little easier with some students to do that. Well, I can't remember exactly. He ended up taking the 2 SWATs, and then he wasn't going. He said, I shouldn't have to give the money back. I've already been punished. I said, that's not your money. You're going to get that money back. And so I called Coach Sherwood and I said, if he doesn't get the money back, I'm going to have to suspend him from school. And he said, let me take care of it. So the next day, the young man comes in, gives him the money, doesn't say anything. And so that was the end of it. He got to play ball Friday night.
Oh, wow.
Coach Sherwood didn't mess around.
Oh, no. I mean, he was in control, and that's the reason he went to Lubbock as athletic director and retired down there. He was he was the athletic director for Lubbock for several years.
I bet he was good in that role. So you said you taught for what, 5 years before you went into an administrative role?
Yes, I did. And then at that time, a dean's job came open. And about the same time I had completed my master's. And you had to have a master's to be a dean. And so I can't remember who came to see me at that time, or could have been Mr. Beecher. It might have been Mr. Henry, but asked me if I'd like to be a dean. I said, yeah, that was extra money. I don't think it was a whole lot. I think it was like $600 more a year, but it was money and a chance to get your foot in the door in that type of job. I had never thought I'd ever want to be in administration, but as I taught, and got adjusted, I wanted to do that. And we taught 3 classes. And then we were ahead of a class of probably 400 to 500 kids. And we did all the attendance, all the discipline that we could, and took care of all the special events and things for that class. So I did that for 5 years. And then that's when Mr. George came and interviewed me. And so I was his first assistant principal and continued in that role for 9 more years. So 14 years I was a administrator, probably having to use the paddle every day, dealing with discipline every day. And so over the years, I was involved with a lot of students.
Well, I've got 2 questions. Well, understand you had a nickname Spanky because of your paddling.
Yeah, never to my face.
1, how many paddles did you break in those 7 years?
Well, I probably don't want to admit that. But let me kind of, if y'all have time, I'll just give you a little of how I feel that
Absolutely, sir.
Came about. When I first started teaching, your teacher basically had one defense. You could paddle or you could send to the office. The administrators didn't want you sending people to the office. They wanted you to take care of your own discipline. Well, that was basically it. So I had done my student teaching under Mr. Watson, who used the paddle. And so I had seen it used. And so, those guys gave pretty good swats. They said, if you're going to use the paddle, do a pretty good job, or else you're going to be a laughing stock and you're going to have more problems than you can deal with. So it was kind of a 2-edged sword. You don't want to hit a kid hard enough to hurt him, but you don't want him going out there and saying, oh, that was nothing. So first kid I ever busted, I still remember him, bless his heart. He passed away at a young age, but it was a really sweet kid. He was a freshman, but I had all these freshmen. I had probably at least 120, 30 freshmen the first year. And, they hadn't reached full maturity at that point. So I took him out in the hall and I said, what were you doing? I'm going to have to give you a couple of swats. So I didn't have them grab their ankles. I just had them bend over and put their hands on their knees. I gave him a couple of swats, came back in, and all the kids were just kind of sitting there, big-eyed. One kid sat over next to the wall. He said, "Mr. McBee, I think some plaster came off the wall." And they all kind of laughed. But so you would occasionally, I really didn't like to bus kids, but occasionally you'd have to. But here's the deal. You had to get another teacher as a witness. So you had to stop your class. You had to stop his class. You had to go out into the hall and then come back in and try to get class going again. So I didn't bust that many. And I think in 5 years of teaching, I only had 2 kids that I had to send to the office out of class, and it's because they didn't want to take swats from me, but they took them from the person downstairs that I would send them to. But as I got to be a dean and assistant principal, it was on a daily basis. So, I was a little guy, had pretty good sized arms. I was left-handed. I think it just kind of grew, as to me being the spanky guy.
Well, let me ask you this, being a tennis player, did you envision, hitting a nice little forehand and when you spank someone?
It was a forehand swat, but it was, I never did. I always had more of a quick hand motion and I always used a light paddle, and it always corresponded to regulations. There was actually regulations on what recommendations for the paddle. I've had kids say, "Oh, he swatted me 10 times and he drilled holes in the paddle." Not true. Most swats I ever gave anybody was 3, and I never drilled any holes.
Well,
I did have to replace a paddle or 2 that would split, but I was using pine or willow, which were very light woods.
So who made the paddles? Did the
Shop teacher
made
nice.
it? Okay.
Did you give him since you knew math? Did you draw it out, sketch it in dimensions how you wanted it?
No, but I can't remember where I got my first pattern, but he had a pattern of what I wanted.
Yeah, that's
And
funny.
so one of them played out, I had to have another one right away.
Now,
a funny story about paddling. This goes back before your time.
Oh, okay.
But I had a group, it was upperclassmen. They were in homeroom. This is back more in the early 70s. And they were some really great kids, but kind of ornery. And I had a rule in my classroom that nobody threw anything, a paper wad, at the trash. If you want to put trash, just go put it in, go sit down. I didn't care whether, some of them had a rule that if you hit it, you didn't get swats. I didn't want anybody throwing anything. So I said, if you throw it in the trash, you're going to get swats. That's a blanket deal. Well, I'm sitting there in our homeroom one day, kid sitting next to the door over there, ornery redheaded kid. He just ups, looking right at me. And,
wow, he challenged you.
Well, he was a good kid. That was an ornery bunch. So I go get my paddle out. I said, "Come on out. You know what the deal is." He said, "Yes, sir, I know." So I get out there. I say, "How much are they paying you per swat to do that?" He said, $3 a swat. I knew he just didn't do it on his own. I said, "Well, bend over. I'm going to let you make all the money you want." This is true. I can remember it like it's yesterday. And
How much did he make?
After the second swat, he came up and he said, "I've made all the money I want, Mr. McBee."
Oh, that's funny.
It was kind of funny, but it was kind of sad. Those other guys deserved paddling, but he was the one, he took it on himself. And if I hadn't paddled him, well, then they'd been chucking at it, all of them, the next day. You could have been assured.
That's exactly right. That's
Yeah,
exactly
I
right.
was lucky not to get swats from you. So thank God I
I know
I
you
never.
did. And I never got swats in high school.
I got all mine in 7th grade. I received 5, and they were all in 7th grade by Coach Selke, Coach Upchurch, and Mr. Estes, the math teacher.
So you got some pretty good swats then.
Yes, I did. And Mr. Estes always wanted, he reached out and wanted to shake hands. No hard feelings. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
But,
I know Mr. Estes. I went to Wayland with him.
Oh,
Big
nice.
guy.
Yeah, big guy.
Yep.
And
Glasses.
yeah. He was, and he even taught out at the college some after I did, but he's been in really, really bad health for several years. But in fact, he and I and Mr. Watson all went back and worked on our same master's degrees at Tech and drove up there and back together.
Well, I didn't, it was Mrs. Kramer's class where I got in trouble. And of course, she didn't give the lick. She would go get Mr. Estes. And we went in some room. I don't know. It was like equipment room, not equipment, maybe storage. And what? Got 2 from him. So I want to ask you. You mentioned you're a very strong man. What can you share a story? How you used to love arm wrestle people?
Yeah, that was. I didn't know you knew about that.
Hey, I got 3 little mice that I reached out to.
When I was a junior in high school, I bought me a set of weights, and I'd always been fairly strong due to the fact that I'd worked a lot. And anyway, I got to getting stronger lifting those weights. And then when I got to working in the machine shop, it was every day lifting crankshafts, which are heavy weights, and you lift them up in the form of a curl, and you put them in the machine. And you put them in there, then you take them out, you stamp them, you pick them up again, you put them on the ground. So I would lift several thousand pounds a day, probably over years. Well, it got to where people would see my arm, they'd want to arm wrestle. Well, I'd arm wrestle them left-handed since I was usually smaller, and I don't think I was ever beat. And I arm wrestled some pretty good sized guys. Of course, I'm not saying I could beat anybody, but I was able to beat those that I arm wrestled.
Was it profitable?
I just did it because I like to.
Yeah, you just did it for fun.
A funny story about that, though. When I was at Olton, and this is after I dropped out of school and I was working machine shop there, and I had arm wrestled nearly everybody in town. A guy that owned a shop down the street came in one day into our shop, and this big guy behind him, and he says, "This is Moose. I hired him today. He's been working down to Odessa." And said, he hears there's a guy down here that's pretty good arm wrestling, and he wants to try him on. So he was big. He was probably 6'2", 3, weighed probably 225, 230. And so I knew better than to get my arm up on a high counter, because it's a lot of center of gravity and there's a lot of skill in doing that. So we got down probably on the floor almost. And after a tussle, I got him. So anyway, like broke my arm. And anyway, that afternoon, he brought him back and he said, Moose wants to try him again. So we did it again. I got him again. He never came back in. But
Dang, good for you.
Wow.
Well, Mr.
true
McBee,
story.
there's a couple of comments that I want to share with you from Danielle Engel. She says, well, it's been 32 years. I would like to apologize to Mr. McBee. I've had guilt since 1994. So she continues to write, I'm very sorry I got my first speeding ticket in your car. I blame it on your daughter. Love you, Mr. McBee. Danielle Real, Danny Engel, AHS 1994.
I remember Danny well. That is so funny. I didn't know she got a ticket in my daughter's car, though. But she was best friends with my youngest daughter, Stephanie, and her mother worked for the school. She's the sweetest girl that ever was, and she and my daughter still remain friends to this day.
Oh, that's
good.
wonderful. I wanted to ask you, so when you became an assistant principal, did you ever have days or moments that you missed the classroom just from the camaraderie with your students and also just from the simplicity and not having so much responsibility? Did you?
Surely I did. I loved teaching math. And that's the reason after I retired in 2001, I started to work. Well, I ran the boot camp for 3 years for the county after I retired, which meant every kid I had been kicked out of school. And so it was the boot camp, which still exists as the alternative education placement for the county. And then after that, I went to work teaching for South Plains College, teaching college algebra and math for their vocational nursing students. But I love teaching math. Later on, I will even mention this, just happened to think about it. I developed my own formula for pi, independent of anybody else, and I did it in probably a couple of hours, and it's a formula I put together using geometry, algebra, trigonometry, and calculus. And if you've got a good calculator, you can plug this in, and it actually works out to a certain number of decimal places. Of course, pi is an irrational number and goes on forever, so it would never end. But I loved math. I still occasionally will pull up some problems on the internet just to kind of see if I still got it and work a few of them. But of course, as assistant principal, you didn't have time really to worry about it to get bored, because every day you went to school, if you didn't have a problem you knew you was going to have, you just didn't know which direction from whence it was going to come.
Do you feel like your time as an administrator really helped develop and hone your people skills and your what's the word I want to say?
You're lost for words?
I'm at a loss for words. No, what? Because I want it to come out right. I mean,
Yeah.
You're saying, did it being administrator, did it enhance other skills?
well, yeah, enhance your ability to communicate, your ability to problem solve with people, and did it help develop your people skills, your
Oh, yeah.
your interpersonal relational skills?
Definitely. And your problem solving skills.
Sure.
You had to, in the school business, you didn't have, it wasn't like a court of law. You have a problem, you analyze it, you research it, you talk to the parties involved, and then you make a decision on the best information you have and assess appropriate punishment if it's due. And you're always talking to parents. And then as I got to be a principal, of course, you'd be in front of assemblies, you would be graduations and banquets and all of that type of thing. And then after I became administrator, retired as assistant superintendent there at Plainview. At one point, I had rewritten the student code of conduct right after I got back to Plainview, and it had to be in accordance with state law. And I wrote the whole thing by myself, presented to the superintendent, he presented to the school board, and it was approved. And then to present it, since so much was new at that time, we had the entire faculty. I mean, every person that worked for Plainview High School was there, and I got to present that. I had 2 overhead projectors, and that I would go over one, then I'd go to the next. And so for about an hour, I was in front of the whole student body, whole admin staff doing that. That was pretty stressful, but I felt like that I did a decent job. But things like that do give you more confidence in being in front of people.
Sure, for sure. I think that being an administrator, being a teacher is just such an honorable profession. And, the fact that you went from not having a game plan to falling in love with teaching is pretty remarkable. I don't think teachers get paid enough. I don't think they are honored enough. And I come from a family that's all in education. My sister's a superintendent, so I get to witness firsthand the stresses, and it's a lot. You're responsible for a lot.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I've never griped about my wages. I worked extra jobs. My wife and she worked for the schools and retired from Abernathy. We've had great retirement. We've got all the benefits. So we're able to live a very comfortable life in our retirement. And it's because of the way that we just kept things together. Didn't have a whole lot of money, but in the end, it turned out to be A-okay. But, I think it'd be more difficult being a teacher nowadays than it was when I was a teacher.
Yeah,
I was going to ask, was there ever a time you're sitting at your desk and you're like, I should have became an engineer?
I shouldn't be in here?
No, I should have became an engineer. You're sitting at like I should have became some type of
I will
civil
tell you
engineer.
This, the first year I taught, I was nervous probably at the beginning of every class. I was motivated, but you had all these kids out there. You didn't know for sure what was going to happen. And so it was a very tough job for me my first year. In fact, I had to talk to myself after the first year to decide to come back the second year. I basically told myself, I put the time and effort into this. I can't quit after 1 year. I'm gonna do this. And then each year kind of got a little easier. But I didn't go in as a natural for sure.
Well, how you were pretty young. How old were you your first year of teaching?
Well, I wasn't as young as you think, probably. I graduated in 1961, and I started teaching in 9 years later, in 1970. I was 27.
Okay.
But I started in 1970, and I taught my last year for South Plains in 2018. So for 48 years, I was doing something in education.
Okay.
Wow, that's a remarkable and long career, Mr.
Yes,
McBee.
it is.
That's impressive.
I need to ask, did you ever challenge or did you ever play tennis with the tennis teams in Plainview?
No, I didn't have time.
Okay.
And they would probably beat me, although there'd been some I could beat, I'm sure.
What about now? Do you play pickleball? Or do you even?
No, I hadn't got into pickleball. When I got married, my wife's family were golfers. And so I got into golf. I loved it better than tennis. I have 3 golf courses up here I can play every day. We live on a golf course community, and I'm not playing much anymore because I'm so terrible. I never conquered that game. I was probably the worst sport playing golf that ever was. I'm not kidding you. I did some of the most stupid things you can imagine as a grown man. And there's people out there watching this that would probably attest to that. But I wanted to play so good, and I wasn't any good. I did have a time or two that I broke 80. I think I shot a 73 one time. But for the most part, I was mediocre.
Did you play left-handed as well?
Oh, yeah, I do everything left-handed.
Were you having fun? Because that's the most important thing.
Well, losing balls is not having fun. I'm pretty sure you lost plenty of balls, didn't you?
Yeah, but I'd hunt for them. In fact, I probably got 1,000 golf balls now out there. But no, I didn't have fun every time I played golf. That's what made it difficult. But I was so competitive that I wouldn't give it up. And so I never played anything. I haven't got into pickleball. Pickleball is big up here, but I just don't like the sound of the ball the way it sounds and all of that type of thing. I will tell you one thing I did though, athletically, that I kind of proud of. 3 years ago, I decided I was going to enter the New Mexico Senior Olympics. I knew my legs was good. I didn't have any health problems. I never liked running long distances, and I wasn't any good at it, but I was always kind of speedy. And so I decided I'm just going to try to get a little bit in shape here and sign up to run the 50-meter dash in the Senior Olympics. So at age 80, which I was in the 80 to 84 group range, I ran in the Senior Olympics and got a silver medal for second place.
Wow, congratulations. How far, the person that won, what was the distance between you and the person that won? Was it
I
close?
don't even want to say that. That guy was a cheater. He was about 6'3", had legs up to, I don't know how high. I was taking about 3 steps to his one. I was a distant second. I think he won 5 gold medals that day.
Oh, wow.
Wow. But that's really impressive.
I signed up the next year to do it again. And then my great-grandson was born in the Metroplex almost at the same hour that I was to be running. And of course, I was there at the hospital when he was born. And then this last year, I'd signed up again. And then my wife, lo and behold, had to have another knee surgery. And so that was the same week I was supposed to do that. She's had 3 knee surgeries. This was a redo on one that had already been done. So, of course, I chose to be with her.
I think that was a wise choice.
Wise choice.
Wise choice. Yes, absolutely.
Very wise.
Yes, very wise. I agree. Well, going back to your tenure from teaching to administrative work to being a dean, at any time during your career, is there a funny story that you can share with about a student that you had an interaction that you look back on and think that was pretty hilarious?
Or students.
Yeah, or students, multiple students, yeah.
I've got one that I had jotted down. Most of the things I've jotted down or looked at were, disciplinary related. And if we have time, I might even go over 1 or 2 of those, but it's no big deal. But this is kind of a amusing story, but it's also sad. This was when I was a dean, and Mr. Watson was the assistant principal. And one day at lunch, I'm walking down the hall, and he's got this kid outside the office there. He doesn't have him pushed up against the wall, but he's talking to him. Kid has his back to the wall. Mr. Watson is facing him. And I walk up and I say, "Well, Mr. Watson, what do we have here?" Well, if you remember Mr. Watson, he had a slow country drawl, and he said, "Mr. McBee, what we've got here is we've got ourselves a dilemma." The kid looked at him, said, "Dilemma? What you calling me names for? I ain't no dilemma. And you don't need to be calling me one." Said, "Y'all ain't nothing but trash, no way." Said, "I ain't called y'all any name." I mean, he was irate. He's a pretty good sized kid. Anyway, he took off down the hall, left school, never returned.
Oh, wow.
Never returned.
Oh, wow.
It is funny and sad, like you said. At the
Yeah,
same time.
yeah. I mean,
Exactly.
you just can't imagine. But I think the kid was a special education student. I didn't know him that well. I can still call his name, which I wouldn't naturally. I don't know what ever happened to him. I'm afraid that he had a hard life.
Yeah.
That's sad. Do you have an O.T. Ryan story? Can you share a story about Mr. Ryan?
Well,
he was there for a long time.
OT, and his Mickey Mouse, all of that. He never caught much flack for that. And he was giving him a Mickey Mouse, and I was giving him 2 and 3 swats. But great guy. I loved him. We got along good. I supported him. He usually took care, even with as many kids, he usually took care of most of his discipline problems. But if he had one, he would refer them to me, and always interested in naturally what I did. But kind of a funny little story. We're doing graduation at the end of the year. And of course, OT and the band have part of their band down there. They play the music, for all that. And we go down and practice. So we practice a while and we make a couple of run throughs. And it's still not kind of the way I want it. And OT said, well, y'all about ready to quit? That everything looks fine to me. And I said, well, really, it looks a little bit ragged. I think maybe we need to go through it one more time. He said, this must be the dumbest bunch of seniors I've ever seen in my life. And of course, he turned, they all booed him. Seniors out there being told stupid, but we went through it again. But probably the only run-in I had with him, was because my daughters were in band, but my daughters were also honor students. They were in class officers. They were golfers on the golf team. They were trying to do everything. And so I believe it was after their sophomore year, they came to me before school started and said, Daddy, we don't want to do band anymore. I said, well, you make your own decisions. Said, we want to still play golf. We want to do all these other things, but we just can't continue doing all of this. I said, I understand. I support you. Well, boy, when OT found out, he came in my office red-faced. Mr. McBee, your daughters want to drop out of band. I said, I know. They told me. He said, you going to let them? I said, I'm not going to stand in their way. They're smart kids. They've got to make their own decisions, live their own lives. And one of them was a oboe player, and the other was a similar type reed instrument, which is hard to replace. So I felt his pain, but
and
clarinet maybe.
no.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. They weren't in band, but he and I always got along fine. I respected him so much for being such a great band leader and being able to take care of as many students as he did every day.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I got to ask you about this photo this is the promotion photo that I used for your show. Every picture of the faculty, it's going to be, hold on, it's downloading. Sorry. Hopefully it doesn't take
Well,
too
while
long.
you're downloading, I want to ask Mr. McBee, do I have time to ask him a question?
Yeah, go ahead. Hold on. There it is. So everyone has a good, you're the only one with an action photo. How'd that come about? Look at the sideburns.
Beautiful dark hair.
Look at that. Look at those sideburns.
I know. I had them. I'm just glad you didn't get a picture of me with a mustache. I had one time, and that was the most horrible picture to this day. Every time I look at it, I cringe, and my wife laughs. But That's not a bad photo right there. I look pretty dapper.
There
Yeah,
you go.
you look very
suit and
dapper.
tie, absolutely.
Absolutely. well, what I wanted to ask, in all your years in education, what was the most rewarding thing about it during your tenure?
Well, let me just interject this real quickly. The most rewarding thing in life has been having a family and watching them grow up to all be productive citizens, having a good wife of 61 years, and then seeing my grandkids going down the same road. That's rewarding. As it's hard to pick out any one thing in education. I was in it so long. I think probably the thing that I'm most proud of was the longevity of starting as a teacher, working my way getting my education, working through all of that, and continuing to be productive, that I felt even as a college teacher, even though I was teaching part-time. So I would say it's just being able to participate at so many levels successfully for a long period of time.
Okay.
Well, that's certainly something to be really proud of, and I know that you've touched a lot of kids' lives.
I hope
Yes,
so.
he did.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah, don't in other ways.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
And
Absolutely.
I actually went to Saul Ross when I was in my 50s and received my superintendency certification. So that was another, I did that on weekends and in summers.
Oh my gosh, that's a long way to go.
Yeah, Lord
yeah,
Griffith
They
did
called, they
Lord-
called, called us weekend warriors.
Yes.
We'd
Lord
drive
Griffith
down on
did
Friday,
that.
go to school all day Saturday, half a day Sunday, and drive home, be at work on Monday.
Yeah. As I
that's
mentioned,
incredible.
Lord Griffith from our class, she did that to get her master's.
Really?
Went to Saul Ross. Yeah, her and a group of teachers did that long drive.
Well,
Mr.
it
McBee,
was
when was the last time you were in Alpine?
probably the last class I attended. That's a different type town. I know that.
Yes, it is. It's one of my favorite places, and my husband and I go to Terlingua every year for 2 or 3 weeks. But
It's
they
unique.
it is unique. But I wanted to tell you that they have really expanded their museum at Sul Ross State University, and it is spectacular. It's voted as the best small museum in the U.S.
Oh my gosh, I would
yes.
love to see it.
They have their curator has done a phenomenal job. If you and your wife ever get an opportunity to go, it is worth going. It was very
That
impressive.
would probably be a good trip for us. I always kind of liked it in that you felt like you had kind of fallen off the ends of the earth. You know, you were out there all by yourself, away from civilization.
It feels that way, that's for sure.
Cool. Well, hey, you mentioned family. So I'm going to bring one, and then the other two would come on soon. So I'm going to bring someone in for you.
Hello.
Oh,
What you doing there, girl?
I'm listening to this wonderful talk.
I hope I haven't embarrassed you.
Oh, no, this is great.
Now, you can see why I'm proud of my daughters. Look how beautiful they all are.
Absolutely, they are.
Yeah.
You're so cute, Daddy.
I want to check their forearms.
Wow.
He raised us right.
Christy
Dang.
works out on weight.
Show off.
Well, we lost Misty. Hopefully she can, if you can hear me, Misty, get out and come back in.
Yeah, it shows that her device is not connected.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and kick her from the studio, and hopefully she'll come back in. But let me start with Steph, being the baby. Baby,
Yeah.
can you share a nice, friendly or funny story about your daddy?
Well, there's quite a few. I had a little bit different experience than my sisters because he was my principal at a very small school. But it was really good because everybody liked him. He was well liked by students and staff, and so it made it really easy. It wasn't like so awful like some people might imagine if your dad was the principal. But he was talking about running the 50-yard dash, and he used to challenge me until probably maybe I could have beat him to the 50-yard dash out in the front yard. And he never would run any further than 50 yards. And he could probably beat us till, I don't know, probably high school.
That's wonderful.
He was just preparing for those Olympics all those years back.
For
Nice.
sure. So, Steph, how much younger are you than the twins?
5.5 years. So I
Okay.
graduated in 94 from Abernathy.
Okay. And
Antelopes, right? Antelopes
Oh,
is
yes.
okay. All right.
And
What about you? Go
He
ahead.
actually, I credit him with me starting basketball because when we left Plainview and we were moving to Abernathy, he told me, he said, if you want to fit in, you've got to play basketball. So I went to the Flying Queens basketball camp that summer before we moved and started playing basketball and actually just fell in love with it.
Oh, wow. Were you a
Smart
guard or
Oh, yes.
okay, shooting
He's
or
like
or
4'11".
No,
so.
point guard. Yeah.
point guard?
5 feet.
Come on, give it that extra inch, 5 feet.
Yeah, me
You
too.
know, with
4'11".
sneakers on. Christy, what about you? Can you share a story about your old daddy, your old man?
Oh, there's lots of really great stories. He's the one that got us started with golf. Me and Misty, we started playing. Well, he was our first teacher in teaching us how to play golf. And we were about 11 years old, I think. And being in Plainview High School, and being, you know, his daughters, we didn't have the height and and all of that. We were, I guess, maybe a little bit athletic, but not near as much so as, there were a lot of other girls that were better at basketball and, a lot faster and quicker. So he talked us into, taking up golf. And he loved, Jack Nicklaus was one of his favorite players, and Tom Watson and Tom Kite and all these guys. And he was always trying to like break down the golf swing and analyze it and figure out, just like he would a math problem. But he got us started playing golf, and then he made sure we got some lessons out at the Plainview Country Club. And so by the time we got into high school, we had been playing a little bit on junior golf tournaments. And, we weren't super confident yet in our game, but he gave us a good start. And then we both were able to, play on a very successful golf team throughout high school. So that was a lot of fun. And although I hated anytime we would have a tournament, he would want to come out and watch us. And I'd be like, no, don't come. I don't want you, make me too nervous. So sometimes I would catch him watching behind a tree. And then of course I would shank the ball or miss it or altogether or whatever. But, for the most part, it was because of him that we started playing, and still to this day, I still love golf. And my husband is a golf pro, and so we, I've been able to enjoy it my whole life, really. So
You didn't tell us he had a son-in-law as a golf pro.
yeah, here in Ruidoso, he has his PGA credentials as a golf professional. He's not ever been on like the PGA tour or anything crazy like that, but he does teach and give lessons. And in fact, we just opened our own golf simulator shop here in Ruidoso, so that's something new.
Nice.
Wow, that's very nice. Did
Yeah,
y'all
very
feel
nice.
a lot of pressure to excel in school and just be, stellar citizens and students as a result of your dad being an administrator?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was necessarily pressure that they put on us. I mean, we knew they had high expectations. That's just how we were raised. And they were, we knew what was expected in our behavior. And they definitely, both my parents, really valued education and wanted to make sure that, they would make sure we got our homework done at night. And, and it wasn't like, oh, if you don't make straight A's, you're in trouble, and it wasn't like that. But we were also all kind of just self-motivated as well. And we just wanted to make our parents proud, I think, and just do well and get a good education, because our parents always talked about, if you get a good education, you can do so many other things and have a chance to be more successful in life. And so even when we would go, like I think one of the stories I told you, every trip practically that we took as a family when we were growing up, we would travel a lot in the summer when when mom and dad weren't working, because they both worked for the school. And we would take trips to New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, different places. And the road trips were always, we always had to find games to play, but dad always had riddles, or he would find some kind of a math problem or a mind game or something for us to solve. And we were always, he always kind of made it fun. Learning was something fun. And he tried to teach us how to solve problems at an early age, and learn how to figure things out. And so
you guys didn't sing like bingo, bingo, or 99 bottles of beer on the wall?
we didn't.
No, none of that stuff,
We
huh?
were pretty nerdy.
So, Mr. McBee, you and your wife, did you guys dress the twins like the same clothing like a lot of the parents do?
Yes, they did. Although they weren't identical twins, my wife usually dressed them in really nice, cute things, and they would be dressed alike. And they always got along pretty good for the most part. If one of them got something, they'd want to share it with the other. But talking about their motivation, actually, they were all highly motivated on their own to do well at everything they did. And so I didn't feel like we had to put a lot of pressure. They were putting it on themselves, and they wouldn't tell you this, but Christy and Misty were the two highest ranking girls that graduated at Plainview High School in their class, and Stephanie was the highest ranked girl in her class when she graduated.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, ladies. I mean, I would too if I had Mr. McBee's a dad. No, I'm kidding, Mr. McBee. I'm teasing.
It wasn't always easy to date.
Excuse me.
When we got to be the age where we, wanted to start dating or having boyfriends, that wasn't always easy, because not every boy would want to come to the door, and face Mr. McBee.
Oh, there's Misty.
Yes.
I made it. I was having
What's
technical difficulties. I think I'm
I
my
can't believe
camera's
you
not
would have
dummy-proof.
technical difficulties.
Okay,
what?
so this is a question for you girls. So, was your dad or your mom the disciplinarian at home?
Oh, Dad.
In Florida, they had Sparky, the electric chairs in Florida, Sparky, and you guys had what, Spanky? Right?
Well, Mom,
Let me say this.
Mom would lecture.
I never used a paddle on the girls. They were small. They always minded good. No, I never paddled you one time. I would use my hand, and after I did that a time or two, it was usually if I told them to do something, they did it, and that was the end of it.
There's one exception.
Birthdays.
We always got birthday spankings.
Those don't count.
He would get his paddle down from the closet, and of course he would just like barely, but every year on our birthdays, he was like, okay, it's time for your birthday spankings. And he would give us, he would swat us with that paddle as many times as we were years old, so, but it was just
and one to grow on, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
yes,
One to grow
always
on.
one to grow on. So, we knew that if we ever got in trouble at school, I mean, this was like stated to us numerous times. You get in trouble at school, you're getting twice as much trouble at home. So, we didn't want to get in trouble.
So, Misty, can you share a story about your dad?
Oh gosh, I remember that on the Olympics, the teacher Olympics, Dad would really get into that. It seemed like every year he'd dress up. I think he rode a tricycle. Did you ride a tricycle one year in the Senior Olympics or the teacher Olympics?
I did a lot of things in the Teachers Olympics.
That you did yeah, you were really into that. I do remember the one time when you turned 50 and your staff took everything out of your office and put in a little like kindergartner desk and then a blow up inflatable wrestler doll behind the desk that had the big arms and filled your office with black and blue balloons.
Those things like that happened because of Mrs. Lance, and it also happened to Abernathy too. Every year on my birthday, they would have some kind of stunt.
I think it was probably just paybacks.
Nah,
Sounds like some fun shenanigans to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
We
Hey,
had
so
a good time when we could.
Steph, Danny Engel,
Uh-huh.
I think did you see me share her quote?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah, she was my first college roommate, my first year and a half of college too. She's
But-
a hoot.
how it happened in the incident when she got a speeding ticket in your dad's car.
I heard she blamed me. That sounds much like the Tom Brown stories I heard also. Wasn't me that got the ticket, I'll tell you that.
Well, that's going to be our next podcast, Mr. Tom and Larry. Get them together.
Oh
Check
boy.
it out.
Hope you had
He
a lot
would
of
probably
time on
win
that.
out.
Oh,
So
my
cool.
goodness.
So what did you guys? I mean, how did the students treat you guys? Misty and Christy.
Oh, I think like we were in like mainly honors classes, and I think people were afraid like if we ever showed up at parties, which wasn't that often. I think it was like my
Yeah,
junior
hey,
and
that's
senior
okay. You're a
year,
grown
I was
woman.
a little more, but you'd show up at parties and people would say, "Don't tell your dad that you saw me here." And I'm like, well, my dad doesn't know that I'm here, so your secret's safe with me.
I'm not gonna tell
Look,
him myself.
Dad's like, I don't know anything.
Oh,
Well,
that's
were y'all
funny.
listening in when he talked about him playing hooky and going
Oh,
to
yeah.
Nazareth?
Oh
Oh, yeah.
He's
Yeah.
told us
No,
those
Tom.
stories.
Remember, it was Tom.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah,
It
Tom.
was
It
Tom.
was Tom's fault.
Yeah. So, ladies, real quick, because we're getting past, I think, your dad's bedtime. Share something. I mean, what? Tell us what you think about your dad. I'm gonna start with the baby, Stephanie.
Oh, well, I've
You've got
always
1 minute each.
1 minute. That's a lot. I have always been very grateful to have my dad because I think I didn't know it as much when I was growing up because I thought he was a harsh disciplinarian, but how much I appreciate that and all the lessons and hard work ethic he taught us and a firm foundation in faith. I think we were in church on Sundays and Wednesdays and just giving us a strong grounding and foundation and raising us up to be respectful of people and love all people. And he was always, if you go out with him and you see him in the community, you always people coming up and know him and want and talk to him, and he'll talk to them. And he remembers people. I don't know how he remembers so many people because I sure can't, but he taught us a lot of good values, and I'm very grateful that he's my dad.
Nice.
Oh, that's so
Chris-
sweet.
Christy?
Well, pretty much the same. I just always, I think I'm most grateful that, they were as strict as they were on us, but at the same time, we always knew that, that we could have fun with our dad too. And, he was always just really fair. So as long as, we knew that we were going to be treated fairly and he was always going to treat others fairly. And so that was just something that he instilled in us growing up, was that, no one's better than you and you're not better than anyone else. And so that was something that, that we always tried to, I guess, amplify that or with our own friends and our own interactions. And as we, just even in my profession today, he just always seemed to be caring and cared about the people that his students. And even I'm a pharmacist. I truly love what I do because I get to help people, and that's I think that comes from largely my dad. Of course, my mom was a great mother and a role model as well, but he was always did what he could to help people, and so it's just very thankful and grateful.
Time's up.
I'll stop talking now.
Misty?
So ditto to everything that Stephanie and Christy said too, but in addition, it just dad teaching us integrity, both of our parents, like it's important to be kind to others and to do the right thing, whether or not anybody's looking or not. You always do the right thing. Honesty is very important. Hard work. They always pushed to set high expectations for us, but we're always supportive in whatever we did. And then dad also, like his goofy sense of humor. He still loves the Three Stooges and Pink Panther movies. So I think a lot of my wacky sense of humor I get from just that.
That's cool. I'm going to ask one more question, and then we'll finish with your dad. Misty, did you guys ever sneak out and get caught?
We didn't sneak out at our house. We snuck out when we were with friends.
Ah.
We did get, well, there was an incident at junior prom, but we don't need to rehash that.
They got caught one time.
And,
Yeah.
and sir?
We got caught one time, and the fear was so, yeah, this was so
It was
real.
like, okay, that really wasn't worth it. We didn't have that much fun.
No,
Yeah,
funny.
we didn't have that much fun. It totally wasn't worth it.
And
Yeah,
of
how
course,
can you
Stephanie.
have fun
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're terrified of the consequences?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It ruins
And I guess,
it.
Stephanie, you never did, being a baby, the smarter
Abernathy
one.
was too small. They would have known
That's
I was
true.
gone before I ever got back home. Somebody would have ratted us out for sure.
Well, ladies, thank you for surprising your dad. Thank you for coming on and sharing those stories.
you.
And, again, we'll look forward to Mr. McBee and Mr. Brown, right? That'll be another good one. Well,
Right.
thank you
you.
guys.
Thank
We're gonna finish up
letting
with your
us
dad. So
There.
Thank
I
you.
know. Thank you so much. What
Yeah,
a
thank
what
you,
a
guys.
treat.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Lisa, tell your sister hello.
Oh, I sure
I
will.
follow your sister
I'll
on
tell
Facebook
Teresa
and
hi.
stuff. So
Oh, that's right. Y'all were in the same class, weren't you?
yes, Teresa
We
was our
were.
classmate. So
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, I will tell her. She will be so thrilled.
send her the link for the
All right.
show.
I will. I
Good
definitely
night.
will. Good night.
All right, guys.
Thanks,
Good
girls.
night.
good night.
night.
Thank you.
Night.
Well, was that a nice surprise, Mr. McBee?
I can't believe it. Appreciate you guys so much for doing that. You can see why I'm proud of them.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, let's ask one more, maybe two more questions, Lisa, and then we can let Mr. McBee, go to bed soon. Me too, though.
Yes, all of us. It's past our bedtime. I'm. This is not about your time teaching. I want to ask you, what's been the most rewarding thing about being a dad? You
Oh
have
gosh.
three bright, beautiful daughters, and I'm sure you were just supremely proud of them. But
Well,
what?
they were so motivated. They were always good girls. Always wanted to do what was right, and they gave me a lot of credit for that. But it just seems like it was pretty much kind of an innate thing with them, and then to watch them achieve at the level that they did and everything that they did, and then to go out and be successful mothers and bring grandkids in that have all gone to college. Well, they've all graduated except one is still going to college. And I always wanted to have a family. I was raised happy, even though we were probably a little maybe on the poor side, but I was always a happy child, and I wanted that to continue with my family.
Did you? How many siblings do you have, Mr. McBee?
I've got an older brother who's same size I am, except he's got a little bigger stomach. He's 87 years old. He lives in Central Texas, there close to Brady, not 10 miles from where we grew up. And he's a healthy guy. He still gets out and works on a caterpillar around his place every once in a while, does stuff like that. My younger brother, bless his heart, wasn't as fortunate. He was 9 years younger, and he died of a disease at an early age, a terrible disease.
Sorry to hear
Oh
that.
gosh, I'm so
To
sorry.
hear that. So last question, and then we'll go into your parting words, Mr. McBee. Do you remember the term goat knuckle back in the late 70s and 80s?
No, I kind of had to look it up.
I hope you didn't use Urban Dictionary.
It had some different meanings.
Yes, it did. Some of which we could not repeat on this show.
So yeah,
I'd like to say one little thing to the people watching out there. I just want to thank all of you ex-Plainview High School students for being a part of my life and making it as special as it was. And I certainly hope the best for you the rest of your life, and may God bless each of you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much.
We were very privileged and honored to have you on. And please don't make this the last one. Anytime you want to come on, you let me and Lisa know, and we will be glad to put you back on, because I know you probably have several more stories to share.
Thank you so much.
So, well, that's it. Well, good night. Anything else, Lisa? You want to say we go parting words real quick?
Yes,
Quickly?
I just, seeing you today, Mr. McBee, just really has warmed my heart. Thankfully, I never saw you for any disciplinary issues. I was a very good student and a good girl in high school. But
True.
the one thing that I remember about you is how fair you were with everyone. That yes, you were a tough disciplinarian. You set high expectations, and I think anybody who is an educator should raise the bar for students, because you make kids be better that way. But what I vividly and distinctly recall about you was your fairness, that you treated everyone equally, and that even though a lot of students, met the other end of the paddle from you, everybody respected you. And at the end of the day, I know that I could go to you for anything, and I think a lot of students felt that way as well. And so I'm just so honored to see you after all these years, and that you were willing to come on and spend a little bit of your time with us.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. My motto was always firm but fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good motto. Can you have your wife stand behind you and see your better half?
Yeah, just a moment.
Thank you.
Dora, they want to see you. Go over here and stand behind me. They want to see you. Come stand behind me.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. We had to see the mom of these beautiful girls.
Yes, and the lucky man.
She still got red hair.
Oh.
She's still beautiful.
Gray, like him.
Oh. So please tell him
Well,
you do
I
beat
sure
him in
have.
tennis all the time. I hope you beat him in tennis every time you guys played or played in the past. So hopefully.
She can't beat me at anything.
Oh, okay.
I try.
Well, thank you for sharing your husband with us tonight. And yes, you got three beautiful, bright daughters, and of course, Mr. McBee. He was there for a lot of us in Plainview and Abernathy. So, thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank
Good
y'all.
night. Good
Thank
night.
you so much.
And we'll see you, Mr. Tom, soon. In about 3 or 4 months, Mr. McBee.
Oh,
Good night.
we had a couple of people reach out to say hello. Henry Alcazer and William Hancock.
Yeah. Knucklers, Henry, and yeah.
Thanks, Henry.
So, and then William talk about your paddling. Next, maybe he's a, need to
Oh
take him
my
back so
gosh,
you remember.
William. I remember William well.
And
Yes.
of course, he said he touched me really hard. So
He deserved everything he
I
got.
bet he did. I bet. No, wait, him and his fiance were on our show a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, he deserved every
Yeah,
bit
yes.
of it. So, well, good night, sir. I know it's
All
late.
right.
Well, thank you very
you.
much. Good night. We'll talk
Thank
to
you
you
so
soon.
much.
Bye bye.
Bye.
That was I'm speechless. I mean, it was a good show. I mean, when I first reached out, even thought about it, I'm like, whenever Kelly Brown mentioned that he played golf with them when I think he was in Lubbock, Mr. McBee, I was like, man, I'm gonna take a chance and see if he'll come on, and reached out to Misty, and she made it happen. Thank you, Misty. Thank you.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so much. I mean, it was just so delightful. I mean, I can't stop smiling.
I didn't want to say this in front of them, but I did one semester in the office, and woo, I did hear them. Those swats came very loud, and every person, Mo and Dean and Ron, they all mentioned it. They all teary eyed. They had little tears. He brought it.
Yeah. I don't think I know a lot of kids that were terrified of him. I wasn't, only because I knew that I was never going to do anything to compromise
Yeah,
myself.
same here.
And
I
the
never
position.
skipped. Yeah, I never skipped a class in my life. I can tell you
No,
that
me either.
never skipped a class. I was just too
So
afraid.
I didn't have that fear of him. I didn't have fear of approaching him or talking to him because I knew I was never going to be on the other side of that battle.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, guys, thank you. Next Tuesday, we're going to have Kim Tuttle, class of 82. And I guess Lisa probably going to interview us because we're going to discuss our time living in New York. And we both worked in the fashion industry, or as New Yorkers call it, garment industry. So we're going to share a lot of stories when we lived in the Big Apple. So stay
That'll be
tuned to
fun.
next Tuesday. Oh, hold on. Great
Yeah.
show, guys. One more great show, guys. Keep bringing us back to memories and playing. Hey, thank you, Henry. And by the way,
Thank you, Henry.
he is related to Tommy.
To who?
Tommy Alcazar. Remember we had him on.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I think that's his. I'm sorry, Henry, uncle or cousin, but and his dad, it was married to my mom's sister, Shorty.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah, small world. But anyway, guys, thank you, and we'll see you next week.
For sure.
Try to do the gold knuckle and the peace and love. Peace and love. Good night, guys.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.